It landed and pierced Berg, but he couldn't complain long, as pillars of fire were already rising from the ground. "He has your ice abilities as well," Layla said. "That's 3 abilities. Just how strong is Vorden, really?" While using one hand to cast pillars of fire, the other hand would continue to throw ice spears. Berg could only dodge these 2 attacks for so long. "Come on, he has to be running out of MC soon," Berg said. Inside the black room, Rayton was busy laughing. "I bet you this guy thinks he can win the match as long as he waits for Syl to tire out." Right now, Vorden contained 3 abilities. Whenever he copied a person's ability, he also copied the amount of MC points in their body. Vorden's ability and cells were unique. As long as he had copied an ability, he would be able to change any of the MC cells into whatever type he wanted. This meant he had a huge amount of MC points to use. As the fight continued, Berg could tell that Vorden wasn't tiring out. He needed to act fast. Berg crouched into a fetal position and started to let the fire build up inside him. Then, when the attacks were right by his side, he expanded his limbs and out came a sphere of fire, getting rid of all of the attacks. But now, Berg was panting and sweating hard. It was a last-ditch effort to protect himself, but he really didn't know what to do after this. "Where is Quinn?" Syl asked as he walked over. Layla and Erin were too far to hear any of the words Vorden had spoken, but were worried that he might do something drastic. "Crazy boy, I beg you don't do something crazy," Layla said. "Wait!" Vorden shouted. "Rayton was lying. Quinn is safe. He's somewhere else. Let me take over and I can show you." "You damn rat, Vorden!" Rayton shouted back. "Now I'm going to get my ass handed to me." "I'm tired," Syl said. Now Vorden had finally reached where Berg was standing. "I don't want to make an enemy of you, but you attacked us first," Vorden said. "I'm from the Blade family. It's probably best if our 2 families don't get into a confrontation with each other." As soon as Berg had heard Vorden's second name, he finally understood. The Blade family weren't as big as the Big Four, but that was because they chose not to be. They were a secretive family that didn't choose to have much influence in the world. Because of this, not many knew about them. Berg didn't really understand why, but his father had always said if he was to meet someone from the Blades, to show absolute respect. Berg placed his head in the ground and started to apologize. "I'm sorry. It's my fault that this all has happened. Is there anything I can do for you?" Vorden thought about it for a while. "It's okay, but I'm going to have you hand over your crystals you got today and yesterday over to us," Vorden said, smiling. "Of course." While Erin, Layla, and the others watched this scene, they couldn't believe what was happening. They knew Vorden was an original. They even knew of his family name, but they had never heard of the Blade family before. But for some reason, someone from the Big Four was bowing down to him, apologizing, and even handing over their crystals. "Just who are you, Vorden?" Layla thought. Berg and his group handed over the crystals they had obtained inside a bag. Vorden now had a big grin on his face. Quinn had asked him to try to get as many winged lizard beast crystals as possible, saying he needed them for some reason. And right now, in the bag, there were 39 winged lizard crystals in total. Walking over with a skip in his step, Vorden was over the moon about his haul. As Layla peeked inside the bag, she couldn't believe her eyes. "What? I don't understand," Layla said. "How?" "Don't worry about that. I think it's best if we head back and hand these crystals in to be counted towards our score." "But aren't those crystals useless?" Layla asked. "Most of them have already been counted." Each crystal inside had a unique pattern to it. When the crystals are counted, they are placed into a machine that assigns a certain code to each crystal. These unique codes are then added to the team's scoreboard. The whole shelter was under strict instructions to not sell any beast crystals to any students. This was to avoid a group from buying crystals and registering them under their points. But there was a reason why these unique codes were assigned to each team's codes. "Oh, I guess you guys don't know," Vorden said. "My brother did the same thing 2 years ago, so I have a little bit of insider information, I guess. Although the same crystals can no longer be registered for points, if the crystals belong to another team, the unique codes from their score will go into ours." This information was purposely kept from the students, but was told to a select few. Either originals like Vorden knew of it, or those who had already registered with the military. "Well, I hate to say it, but you did a really good job this time," Layla said while pouting. "Well, while we're ahead, why don't we keep on hunting?" Erin asked. The truth is, I'm worried about Peter. Because of this, he might be targeted, Vorden said. If you knew about this, then why didn't we leave him at the shelter? Erin asked. If we did, it would just be the same result, perhaps even more so. People would attack him as soon as they saw him on the street. There was a second reason why Vorden and Quinn wanted to bring Peter along. They were hoping to draw out whoever Peter was afraid of. No one would attack a fellow student like that. Are you crazy? Erin said. Even if it meant getting their crystals, no human being would just attack another because of the test, and even so, people would rush over to help him. At that point, Vorden and Layla looked at each other, and both of them had the same thought. Erin, you do know that Peter is a level 1, right? Vorden asked. What does that have to do with anything? She replied. It was as the two had thought. Erin was unaware of the treatment that lower levels received compared to everyone else. Erin herself never mistreated lower levels, but just never paid them any attention either. She had one goal, and getting to know them wouldn't allow her to achieve anything. As the three of them started to head back to where the well was, the two of them began to explain to Erin just what happened at the school. But the strong would never steal from the weak, Erin said. Just what does that prove? We already know we are stronger than them. Erin just couldn't comprehend why certain people would choose to do such things. Every person is different, Vorden replied. Honestly, if we knew all the answers to why people acted a certain way, then perhaps we wouldn't be in the situation we are in right now. At that very moment, Vorden's fear was becoming a reality, as Ben and his group had just spotted Peter inside one of the buildings.
As Peter heard the footsteps enter the small little building he was in, he quickly realized that he had no way of escape. Now this can be nice and easy for you, Ben said. All we want are those crystals in your bag. As soon as Ben stepped forward, Peter lifted the earth pole towards Ben's face, and then using his ability, transformed the end of it into a sharp tip. Please, Peter said, let's not do this. I can't. If you take the crystals away, they'll hate me even more. Tears were now visibly running down his face and falling to the ground. Peter stood firmly, not allowing the spear to move. It was pointed at Ben. Look, it's Peter, right? Ben said. Suddenly, Peter's face changed a little when he heard his name. Do you know why I know your name? We're part of the military, too. In fact, Duke was the one who gave us all the information. I promise you that Duke will reward you if you hand those crystals over to us. Seeing the change in Peter's eyes, Ben thought his words were a success, but when he stepped forward again, Peter decided to go in for a stab. I said I'm not letting anyone take them, he shouted. As the spear was thrust forward, one of Ben's friends from the side lifted his hand, and with it, an earth wall was placed between the two of them. The wall managed to catch the spear in the center and snap it in half. A few seconds later, a huge club had been swung and smashed the wall into pieces, also hitting Peter and sending him flying back. The blow was so powerful that Peter didn't just crash into the wall, but caused it to collapse and was now outside covered in rubble. What a useless struggle. I would have thought someone like you would have been broken in by now, Ben said as he walked through the hole in the wall and stared at Peter on the ground. Peter was barely conscious. A small trail of blood was appearing from his mouth, and his whole face and hair were covered in debris from the wall. Please, don't hate me, Peter said. I'm sorry, Peter. This is just how the world is. At that moment, Peter passed out. Ben went through Peter's bag and took the 15 crystals that were obtained in yesterday's expedition. They then also took Peter's money card. They decided to leave everything else intact, the food pills, the water purifiers, and the first aid supplies. Ben and his friend had decided they would head to the shelter together, but before heading back, they would make a stop at the oasis to hunt some more teeth worms. As they were walking, one of them spotted something large and black in the sky coming toward them in their direction. What is that? One of them asked. I don't know, I think it's a spaceship, but I've never seen one designed like that before, Ben replied. The black object drew closer, and it was roughly the same size as a large car. Then finally, just in front of them in the sandy desert, the ship had crashed. Get out of the way! Ben shouted. Do you think they're okay? They're lucky the ship didn't blow up, he said. I wonder what happened. But while Ben's friend had no clue what it was, Ben was visibly shaking with fear. He had seen images of one of these before. Run! Run now! Ben shouted. The sphere-like shape opened up, and out stepped what was known as a Dalki. Out on the sandy desert where the area was mostly covered with rocks and sand, one area looked different today. From the outside, it looked like a dark cloud that was continuously moving and shifting, creating a large dome-shaped space. "What is this?" one of the men said. The three from Ben's group were now surrounded by moving shadows. "Did you see his watch?" another one said. "He was actually level 6. We need to get out of here." Inside the shadow void, Quinn could feel a connection with the shadows. It was hard to explain, but it was as if it was created using a part of his own body. Quinn looked at his stats, and as the system had told him, everything was normal. There was no weakness in the sun. While Quinn was busy checking his stats, one of the men tried to make a break for it. He ran to the edge of the shadow void walls. Out of instinct, as Quinn saw this, he lifted his arm and started to shift the wall of the shadow into some type of arm. When the man was close enough, he tried swinging his dagger at the arm, but when it made contact, his arm started to slow down. They felt like they were trapped. "This guy," Mohawk said. "You saw the number on his watch change, right? He's probably a fake, and besides, being a level 6 doesn't mean he has strong abilities." The other two, hearing Mohawk's words, gave them a bit of confidence. "Yeah, you're right, and he doesn't even have any beast gear," one of them said. "Get him!" Mohawk shouted. The crossbow user pulled out his bow and started to firebolt after bolting toward Quinn. "Shadow equip." Shadows started to form around Quinn's arms and legs, and suddenly they were covered in beast gear. As the first bolt came towards him, he lifted his hand, deflecting the bolt onto the ground. "What? But that was a beast arrow. It wasn't just made out of metal," the crossbow user said. "Just keep firing the thing," Mohawk shouted. He did as ordered, and arrow bolts started to fire one after another. This time, as they came forward, the other user who had remained still had gathered what looked like a small hurricane in his hands, and then at the right moment, he brought his hands forward, and a gust of wind came out with it. "Let's see you deal with this." "Blood spray. 55 of 60 HP. A spray of blood left the palm of his hands and knocked each of the arrows out of the air, causing them to break and fall to the ground. "Now it's my turn." Quinn activated his wind walk on his boots to further increase his speed. While doing so, he used the inspect skill on each one of them. The crossbow user could duplicate items, although each item that was duplicated would only be half the strength of the original. The other student was a wind ability user, and lastly, Mohawk was a level 4 earth user. First, the annoying one. With Quinn's added speed with the boots and his reflexes, it was nearly impossible for the crossbow user to hit him, and then, when Quinn was close enough, he cast out 4 blood swipes, swinging out his arms. With no defense, the 4 attacks each hit him dead in the chest, causing large cut wounds across his chest, and to be thrown onto the floor. 51 of 60 HP. Next was the earth user who was by his side. 1 second, Quinn was in his view. The next moment, Quinn had performed a flash step, and at the same time, hammer struck, dealing a blow right on the chest. His chest piece started to crack until it eventually broke away. 46 of 60 HP. Suddenly, a sharp pain was felt inside Quinn's back. As he turned around, he could see the wind user holding the small little daggers in between his fingers. "I got you," he said. He threw another dagger, and it came out too fast for him to react, hitting Quinn's stomach. 42 of 60 HP. Quinn then looked at the dagger and pulled it out of his body. As he did, the wound slowly started healing as the skin could be seen coming back together, until finally there was nothing left apart from a hole in his military uniform. "You monster!" the student shouted, continuously throwing blades. He managed to hit Quinn repeatedly. Making sure to cover his face with his hands, Quinn rushed forward, not caring for the small blades hitting his body. 38 of 60 HP. 34 of 60 HP. Without realizing it, the student was moving backwards out of fear. As he looked down around his waist, he could see the shadow wrapped around his body. "Now tell me, who sent you, and why did you attack me?" Quinn asked.
"I'm so sorry," the wind user said with a stutter. "It was all Ben's idea. He said that we would be able to take care of your level 1s and take your crystals, added to our team's points." The wind user was deadly frightened. Not only had he never seen such a strange ability before, but he was also still trying to decide if the person in front of him was human. "This Ben, does he work for anyone?" Quinn asked. "I mean, we all work for the military, but no one told us to do anything if that's what you're asking." Quinn couldn't be 100% sure if he were telling the truth or not. but judging by his reaction and how frightened he was, Quinn felt like his words were true. You know, if you increase your charm stat a bit more, you would be able to get these weak-minded people to tell you anything, the system said. Are you kidding me? Quinn asked. No, there are certain skills in your system that will only unlock once you get enough stat points. One of them is a type of mind control for the charm stat. It's quite handy if their mind is weak. You can replace their memories, get them to spill the beans, or even if it was high, you could even get the person to kill themselves. Of course, that would only be for the very top of vampire classes. Do you know how many points in charm I need to unlock this skill? Quinn asked. 10 points are needed for the influence skill. 140 of 200 EXP. Right now, Quinn had gained 20 EXP for defeating the level 3 student and 40 EXP points for defeating the level 4 student. Even if he did defeat the wind user in front of him, that would only bring his experience points up to 160. It wouldn't be enough to level up. The reason why Quinn was so adamant about unlocking this skill after hearing about it from the system was because he didn't know what to do. The 3 users here were from the same school as him, and they had seen his ability. It would have been fine if it was just the shadow ability, but they had also seen his blood abilities as well and his incredible healing. If he could, he wanted to avoid killing his fellow students, but it was something that would have had to be done. Just then, from the corner of his eye, Quinn saw something forming from the ground. The sharp object shot out like a bullet, and Quinn managed to move his head and dodge at the last second. Suddenly, heavy breathing sounds could be heard. When Quinn looked at the wind user in the shadow wall, he could see that an earth spike had impaled right through the wind user's neck. More spikes started to appear from the floor, and when Quinn looked ahead, he could see that the earth user had regained consciousness and was barely standing on his feet with his hand held out. Die, you bastard! He shouted. Thinking about the spike, Quinn felt like he had just avoided death. You just tried to kill me, Quinn shouted, when I was just thinking about sparing your lives. Humans are truly disgusting, Quinn thought. In a fit of anger, Quinn sent out blood swipe after blood swipe. The earth user tried to raise a wall between them, but the wall was far too weak. The second the blood swipes made an impact, the wall was smashed, and the blood strikes continued to hit the user. Quinn continued to fire out blood swipes until a message had appeared. A level 4 human has been killed. 80 EXP gained. At that moment, Quinn stopped. 210 of 200 EXP. Congratulations, you are now level 12. 28 of 65 HP. 2 free stat points have been added. 10 of 400 EXP. Quinn wasn't thinking correctly and purely attacked out of anger. The fact that someone had almost killed him, he just reacted, and what happened was not part of his plan. But just like when he looked at Ian's dead body, Quinn felt nothing looking at the Earth user's body lying there lifeless in the corner. Then, from the back of the shadow void, he could hear a groan. Please, save me! It was coming from the wind user, who still had the earth spike lodged in his throat. The color on his face was now turning pale. If Quinn were a healer, then perhaps he would have been able to have done something. Walking over to the wind user, Quinn looked at him. Your friend did this to you. No, you did this to yourself when you tried attacking me. I will put you out of your pain. Casting his blood swipe from above and at a close range, he managed to cleanly cut off the wind user's head. And now he was no longer in pain. Level 3 user killed. 60 EXP gained. 70 of 400 EXP. So I do get more EXP for killing them. Looking at the bloody mess instead of feeling sick like a regular person, his stomach started to growl. Your hunger grows. During the fight, he had used up a lot of blood and had been stabbed several times, and right now the sweat smell coming off his body was only getting stronger. But his mind felt conflicted. I guess I'm no longer human. 65 of 65 HP. Blood type O has been consumed. 1 free stat point has been added. Before doing anything else, Quinn checked if the free stat point could be put into his charm skill, and just like he thought, it could. He then went on to the next body, the Earth user, and had done the same. After getting everything he needed, he could finally increase his charm points to 10. Charm points 10. New skill, Influence has been unlocked. Depending on the user's charm points and the mental strength of the opponent, the user can influence the person or creature to do their bidding. This includes things such as memory loss, information extraction, and so on. Must make direct eye contact with the target. Looking at the bow user on the ground, Quinn was tempted to just end his life there and get the experience points. However, he felt like he really would have lost a grip on himself if he did. In the end, he decided to try out his new powers, and if it didn't work, he would have to go through with it anyway. Lifting the user off the ground, Quinn slapped him across the face a few times until the man eventually woke up. As soon as his eyes opened, Quinn activated his new skill. Skill influence activated. Skill successful. Around the user's eyes, a small red circle could now be seen, and his body went slightly stiff. "What do I do now?" Quinn asked. "Just say whatever you want, and it will happen. If you ask him a question, his brain will process the information and answer. If you tell him to forget something, he'll forget it. You can even replace the memory, but that's a little risky to be honest, and doesn't work well if he gets pulled in for questioning." Quinn did as the system said and gave out his instructions. "I want you to forget everything that happened today. You never saw me and you never met me. You just came out to hunt some beasts, and I want you to go back to sleep." The color around the man's eyes returned to normal, and he quickly went back to sleep as Quinn had ordered. Quinn then tried to cancel the shadow ability, and slowly from above, the shadow started to shrink and disappear. The shadow started to slowly clear and shrink back until it all went right underneath Quinn's feet. "You are being hit by direct sunlight. Your stats have been reduced by 70%. Immediately he felt sluggish, and his head started to hurt. Once his MC points had returned, he was sure to use Shadow Cloak to cover himself and get out of the sun. Then, just as Quinn was getting ready to set off, he spotted black smoke off in the distance. "Isn't that next to where Peter was?" Vorden and the others started to make their way through the dry, harsh desert. Eventually, after walking through the desert, they could finally see the small well area in sight. "That's where Quinn said to meet them, right?" Layla asked. "Yeah, they said they would be here." But just then, Vorden stopped and looked down at the ground. Rubble from one of the buildings could be seen everywhere, but what shocked him the most was Peter. He was crawling across the ground towards them. His legs had been hurt, and possibly a few of his ribs broken. The only thing he was using was his forearms to crawl along the floor towards them. "Peter, what happened?" Layla asked as she came rushing over and knelt by his side. "I have to," Peter mumbled. "I have to get back those crystals, otherwise those guys will hate me. I can't live anymore," Peter said. "Peter, you've done enough," Vorden said, as he knelt and placed his hands on his shoulders. Peter was half conscious the whole time, yet there was one thing in his mind keeping him going forward. He had dealt with the gruesome pain of being tortured, but he couldn't deal with everyone hating him. He looked up and could see Vorden bent over in front of him. Immediately, tears started to run down his face. "I'm sorry, Vorden," Peter cried. "They took the crystals. I tried to stop them, I promise." "I know you did," Vorden replied. At that moment, all the energy had left Peter's body, and he had completely collapsed and passed out on the floor. "What do you think happened to him?" Layla asked. Erin had ignored Peter for the most part and went straight for the bag past him. It was laid on top of the rubble. "It's gone," Erin said. "They took our crystals." "Well, I guess it was pretty clear what happened then," Vorden said. "Wait a minute, what about Quinn? I don't see him anywhere," Layla said. "Well, it's not like we can ask Peter what happened," Erin replied. "They probably took him away too." Although it was possible, the other two doubted it. Out of the bag, Erin had pulled out a little first aid box. It looked to be made of metal like a small briefcase and had a small standard red cross on it. Then she placed it on the ground and pressed the red cross. The little suitcase started to transform into what looked like a little droid. "How can I be of assistance?" the droid asked. "Student Peter Chuck over there. Administer whatever you can to make him feel better." The little robot then scouted off and started to scan the area until it had eventually found Peter injured on the ground. "Will he be okay after this?" Layla asked. "He should be. That robot can deal with some pretty serious injuries. It's like having a personal doctor with you," Erin replied. "As long as he isn't near death, he should be fine. But I do have to warn you guys, we only have one of those things." "I'm surprised you let Peter use it then," said Layla. Erin didn't want to use such a precious item on Peter. But after hearing the words of the others and seeing Peter in pain like that, it made her realize that perhaps the others weren't exaggerating about the mistreatments of others. Just then, Vorden spotted the sign of black smoke off in the distance. "Do you think that's them? Probably one of them using their abilities," said Vorden. "It doesn't look too far away, and we can get our crystals back." "But what about Quinn?" Layla replied. Why don't we split up? Vorden suggested. We can't just leave Peter out here. I'll stay with him in case anything happens. When he's all healed up, we'll go looking for Quinn. You two can go get our crystals back, but if it looks too tough, then fall back and come to the well. With them agreeing, it was the only thing they could do. Vorden stayed with Peter while the two girls headed off to the area of black smoke. On Earth, on one of the very few pieces of land that still existed, was a reasonably large tower that had been built. The tower was so large and grand in size that if someone was to stand at the top of it, they could reach the clouds. This sole tower's purpose was to monitor the activity of each of the planets on the other side of the portals. It needed a strange source of power, that only Eno knew of. It was the same source of power used to power the portals. But today, unlike any other day, red alarm bells were ringing inside. The people were rushing all over the place. In a single room, they had about 200 employees all looking at a computer screen of their own. "Sir, it looks like there's been a breach on one of the green portal planets," one of the men at the computer said. Standing at the back of the room was a man who looked to be in his 50s. Although he was not one to seem intimidating just from looking at him, when he spoke, his words gave a certain feeling of trust. "Bring up the information on the big screen in front of you," he ordered. They did as asked and managed to pull up a small video. It was of a black flying object that had entered the planet's atmosphere. It looked to be slightly injured even before arriving on the planet. "There are meant to be no Dalki in this area. This is near the start of the solar. The Dalki's planets were mostly at the back." The Dalki and humans shared the planets in this specific solar system. Although not at war with each other currently, the two were in a race with each other to see who could conquer more planets. "Send a message out to Dalki Station. Ask them if it's from any of their known battalions and tell them we'll get rid of it at all costs." "Yes, sir." "Also inform the military base, which is in charge of the planet, to send someone to deal with this immediately." "Will do, sir." Out in the desert, the black smoke was now rising into the air more ferocious than ever. It looked like a signal was being cast, and could probably now be seen for miles out in all directions. Although Ben had told his friend to go ahead and run away, they both stood there. As the Dalki got out of the ship, they felt like their eyes couldn't leave such a powerful being for even a second. As Ben looked at the Dalki, he noticed that it had a single spike coming from the back of its spine. This was good news, as they had learnt the fewer spikes they had meant, the weaker they were. "Maybe we have a chance," Ben shouted. "It's too late to run now, but if we face it together." Ben reached for the club on his back and pulled it out. "Are you ready, Hugo?" he asked. After asking his question, no words were heard, and a few seconds later, a thud sound was heard. As he turned his head, he could see his friend's body lying there in the sand, dead. Ben didn't even know what happened. Out of fear, he charged in with his club held in his hand and used all his strength to smash down at the beast. But with a single hand, the Dalki grabbed the club and then crushed it to pieces. "This place stinks," Dalki said. The two girls continued to walk through the desert. "Wait up! Erin, slow down! It's really hot out here," Layla complained. "I can't let them take our crystals. If they hand them in and we lose our points, then that means we could lose our place at number 1. So what? It's not worth risking our lives over. Even without those, we should still get a pretty good position. Why do you need to be number 1 so much?" For the first time, Erin had paused and stood still in the sand. Her fist was clenched, and just as she was about to say something, she bit her lip to stop herself. "Come on, we're not too far off." By now, the black smoke had covered most of the view in front of them. There weren't a lot of things that could be caught on fire, so just what on earth was making that much smoke, Layla thought. Then, as they were walking, Layla suddenly sped up as she spotted what looked like a small black spot in the sky. As it got closer, she noticed it looked ball-shaped and saw that something was dripping from the bottom of it. "Hey, what is that?" Layla asked. "I don't know. It might be someone's ability or something," Erin replied. "Maybe you can catch it." Finally, when it was a few meters in the air, Layla managed to stop it and slowly brought it over to their location. But a few seconds later, she forgot about everything and immediately dropped the object onto the floor. A thumping sound was heard, and it rolled onto the sand towards them. With it, a trail of red was sinking into the sand. "That was a head," Layla said with her voice all shaky. I'm not seeing things right. It was a head? Was it a beast? Or maybe something else even? It could even have something to do with the black smoke, Erin said calmly. How are you not affected by this? Our lives are worth more than some stupid crystals, shouted Layla. Let's get back to the well and tell the others. But Erin stood there deep in thought. If it's an intermediate beast and I use my full strength, I should still be able to take it out, she thought. But then, in the distance, a tall figure could be seen coming towards them. Its tail slowly moved to the left and right. What is that? Layla asked. For the first time, Erin didn't seem like her confident self. However, right now she is different. She had crossed her arms over her body, hugging herself and shivering in the desert heat. Mommy, please save me, she said ever so quietly. Now that the creature was even closer, Layla could finally see what Erin could see. It was a Dalki, but it wasn't alone. As it walked, it seemed to be dragging something along with it. Oh, is that another two I see? The Dalki said. He then looked at Ben's body, which he had been dragging with him. It now had no head, but the rest of its limbs were still intact. He placed his foot on the body and pulled on the arm, ripping it from its socket. It's a bit closer than last time, but it's not as easy to throw. The Dalki aimed at the two in front of it, leaned back, and speared the arm through the air. Seeing the arm coming towards them, Layla knew this one was too fast for her to slow down with her ability. They barely managed to dodge it, with Layla pulling Erin away from the area. Erin, we're getting out of here. Drawing her hand back, she slapped Erin across the face, leaving a red mark as she spoke. Ice path. She created an ice path in front of her and then formed blades below her feet. Do you know how to ice skate? Erin asked. No. Then hold on. Lifting Layla onto her back, Erin started to skate down the ice path at amazing speed. Every time they would reach the end of the path, she would extend the ice in front of her. Those two girls were probably heading for the shelter. If so, it would be bad news if they warned everyone before I got there. I guess I better stop them. Unluckily for the two girls, if the Dalki knew they were not heading for the shelter, he perhaps would have left them on their own. Their destination was actually for the well, hoping to warn Vorden and the others.
Vorden was currently looking at Peter, who was bandaged from head to toe. The little droid had even performed stitches in areas that had an open wound. Did we go too far? Vorden said to himself. Too far? Are you kidding me? Rayton said. You seem to be forgetting that this person sent us off to our death. Rayton, don't you remember why we were created? Vorden asked. Perhaps Peter was going through something similar to Syl, and it was only thanks to us that Syl was able to cope with it all. Have some sympathy for Peter. Just then, Peter started to move a little in his sleep, until eventually he opened up his eyes and slowly lifted the top half of his body off the ground. I would move slowly if I were you, Vorden said. I know you hate me, and you have every right to, but I feel like I need to get something off my chest, Peter said. Vorden continued to look away, avoiding eye contact. I didn't choose the school or the bullies over you two like you might be thinking. I chose my family over you two. You see, I have an older sister, or maybe I should say, I had an older sister. She died on an expedition. It was a big shock to us all, but it was an even bigger shock for my parents. They told me not to worry, not to try and work hard like my sister, for fear I would perish as well. Sounds like you had a good family, Vorden said. You should have listened to them. Trust me, they are a lot happier with you alive. Peter then lifted himself from the ground and looked at Vorden. I realized that, and that's why I said I picked my family over you guys. But then they started targeting me, threatening me on this expedition. Was it Earl and his underlings? Vorden asked. No, I mean they were a part of it, but it was someone bigger, someone near the top. Who? Peter, tell me. Was it one of the teachers, or even one of the sergeants, maybe? Peter paused for a second, as he was unsure whether he should tell Vorden or not. Vorden strangely looked at him. This made Peter feel scared, and made him start to talk. It was... Before Peter could answer, Vorden! Peter! Quinn! Layla shouted at the top of her lungs. The two of them immediately headed outside, and could see Layla being carried by Erin, who ice-skated through the desert. Are you okay? Layla asked Erin. I just used up all my power. I don't think I can help in the fight, Erin said. What happened? Are you running from the people who stole our crystals? Peter asked with a worried expression on his face. No, it's a Dalki, Layla said. The fear was written on her face. Further in the desert, Quinn was plodding away in the loose sand, walking back towards the water well. Long exposure to the sun has been confirmed. Your body has been weakened further. All stats will now be reduced by 80%. What is this? Quinn shouted. 80%? At that moment, Quinn had fallen to his knees as his whole body gradually started to feel weaker. What is happening to me? System, help! Please explain, Quinn shouted to himself. Skill-activated shadow cloak. The shadow at the bottom of his feet began to slowly surround him. He became like a human figure made out of shadows. Stats have returned to normal. His MC points hadn't fully recovered. Quinn wasn't bothered about this. Erin and Vorden could protect him until his MC points fully recovered. A Dalki, are you sure? Vorden asked. They suddenly saw a black figure flying in the sky. It was coming in their direction. It crashed into the large metal machinery, causing it to break apart. The Dalki standing right in the middle of the wreckage could be seen. You should tell me where the shelter is. Now, Dalki said, pointing to the piece of scrap metal beside Layla. Me? She stammered. It's over there, she pointed. Thank you, but I'm afraid no one can know that I was here. He then straightened the piece of metal in his hands with his claws. Then, using his fingertips, he sliced the top half of it to create a makeshift spear. I must not fail my mission, he says as he chucked the spear toward the students. Vorden immediately arrived in front of the group and conjured an ice barrier. No, that won't be enough, Erin said while still lying on the ground. She then lifted her hand and helped Vorden cast another wall behind it, making it as thick as possible, using the last bits of her power. I need to help, Layla thought, as she focused her mind, doing her best to slow down the spear's movements. Also, Peter rushed forward to where the ice wall was. Peter, what are you doing? Watch out, Vorden shouted. I can help too, Peter shouted back. Peter placed both of his hands on the ground, and in that spot, a piece of earth started to slowly rise, eventually creating a third barrier. Then finally, the spear had stopped moving. Oh, perhaps we need to start waging this war again before you Earthlings grow even stronger. Syl, we need your help now, Vorden said. No, Syl shouted back. If you don't, we will all die. You said you would take me to see Quinn. I don't even see any Quinn around here. Why would you lie to me? Syl asked. Just ignore the brat, Rayton said. Let me take over. We don't have time. Vorden immediately left the chair and allowed Rayton to take over. The Dalki then rushed forward, and at that moment, Rayton placed both of his hands on the ground, and a trail of ice materialized, heading straight for the Dalki's feet. Hey, ugly! Rayton shouted at the Dalki in an attempt to provoke it. When that ugly thing stops moving, fire all the arrows you have at it, he shouted to Layla. In the end, she aimed the arrow to go directly into the Dalki's thigh. However, the arrow simply bounced off, not even leaving a scratch on it. Damn it, Rayton shouted. Let's have some lizard barbecue. Using both of his palms, he fired a huge stream of fire toward the lizard. But then, the intensity of the flames started to decrease at an alarming rate, as if they were being sucked away by something. All of the flames were flowing towards the Dalki like it was a vacuum, traveling in one stream directly towards the Dalki's mouth. Thank you for the meal, it said. I haven't had anything this tasty in years. It's hopeless, Erin said. It's too strong. We're all going to die. Skill-activated Shadow Void. The area around them started to be encased in a dark shadow. Is this the Dalki's power? Layla asked. The Dalki himself was equally confused as them. Just what was it that was surrounding the entire area with them in it?
The black shadow started to surround all of them. It slowly encased the group until finally the whole area around them was filled with purple shadows. But then Erin noticed that the Dalki was also looking around in confusion at the shadows as if it was something unknown to it. Then from behind a claw-like shape of red lines came flying toward the Dalki. It turned around. Sensing the power of the attack, it lifted both of its arms to protect itself, and it placed its arms in an X shape right in front of its face. Just as it was about to look up, 4 more of the same attack came at it. Although the attacks didn't hurt the Dalki, for the first time in a long while, it had been pushed back from its position by an attack. As soon as Quinn had released his first attack, his shadow cloak had disappeared, and this had revealed him to everyone. The problem was he was low on MC points. He only had 30 of his MC points left, and he needed to use them wisely. Then Erin spotted Quinn's watch. To her surprise, it currently displayed the number 6. Was he hiding his strength the whole time? She shouted. He must have had his reasons, Layla said. How's the little one doing? Rayton asked. He's still sleeping, Forden replied. So it looks like I'll have to deal with this one, Rayton said. The Dalki then went and picked up another piece of scrap metal from the ground that was part of the well's machinery. Let's see how strong you are, the Dalki shouted as he chucked the spear-like object towards Quinn. No, there's no way he can block that on his own, Layla said. Peter stayed by Erin's side while Vorden and Layla rushed towards Quinn. Shadow control. Using his shadow control skill, Quinn was able to create a black circular shield. But for Vorden, seeing Quinn's action made something click in his head. The spear flew, going at lightning speed, until the tip had touched the black circular shadow. At that moment, the spear looked like it had stopped in midair. Once the spear slowed, Quinn moved to the side. He took the shadow away and allowed the spear to continue moving forward and out of the shadow void. This is perfect, Vorden said. Quinn, as a vampire, was the perfect counter to the Dalki. Vorden threw an ice spear at the Dalki. It shattered into a million pieces once it hit the Dalki's body. However, it did catch Dalki's attention, which was what Vorden was aiming for. You are boring, the Dalki said. I'm far more interested in that one. Hey, brat, Vorden shouted. Its skin is too tough. Use an attack that can hurt it on the inside. On the inside? Quinn thought. When the Dalki was a few meters away, it leapt up into the air with its claws out, and with both of its hands above its head, ready to smash down. MC 20 of 100. The Dalki could feel its attack slowing down as soon as it touched the strange, shadow-like substance, but by using its considerable strength, it was able to pull its hands from the shadow. MC 10 of 100. His attacks are so strong, I can only take one more, Quinn thought. As the Dalki threw another punch towards him, Quinn moved the shadow and wrapped it around the Dalki's fist. MC 0 of 100. Quinn could see the Dalki's other hand coming straight at him. He looked the Dalki in the eyes. Skill days. Days successful, your opponent has been stunned. He stepped behind the Dalki and prepared all the motions for the hammer strike. He added blood spray to the last part, turning it into the most powerful attack he had, a blood hammer. The Dalki still hadn't moved from his spot, but after a few seconds, he fell on one knee. This was Quinn's answer, an internal attack. When Quinn thought everything was over, a large fist had come out of nowhere, swinging out and hitting him right in the ribs, sending him flying through the air. Critical hit! Your ribs have been broken. The Dalki stood up from the ground and smiled, wiping away the green blood from its mouth. I'm not done with you yet, boy. As Quinn hit the building, his body crashed through the wall, and he fell to the floor. Now that was impressive, the Dalki said with a smile on his face. Did you know the more a Dalki gets hurt, the stronger they get? When the Dalki tried to take another step forward, it felt something akin to a force field that was pulling him back and slowing him down. Syl had taken over. Are you trying to take Quinn away from me? He yelled. You Earthlings are nothing like we were told, and you're not even adults, you're just students, the Dalki said. The whole situation was filling the battle-crazy Dalki with happiness. At that moment, Quinn was just lifting himself off the ground. 100 millimeters of blood used. Blood bank is now empty. Vorden, how long do you think you can hold him? Layla asked. At the same time, she saw Quinn lifting himself off the ground and the sun continuing to set behind him. Even if it turns to night, how is Quinn going to be able to fight such a thing? It's just too strong, Layla thought. Then she seemed to recall something Quinn had told her in the past, that he seemed to get stronger with each person's blood he drank. The next thing Layla did, she grabbed one of the arrows from her quiver and used the tip to make a small cut on the palm of Erin's hands. Then, using the bowl of ice, she allowed the blood to drip into it. Once there was a good amount of blood, she continued to do the same using her blood. Next up was Peter. The Dalki continued to move towards them, and the sweat was running down Syl's face. The stupid dinosaur is strong, Syl said to Vorden and Rayton. Suddenly, Layla appeared by his side. She created a small cut on the back of Vorden's leg. When the bowl was finally full, she started to make her way towards Quinn. Just what is that girl doing? The Dalki thought. Here, drink this, Layla said as she handed over the bowl full of blood. He took the bowl and gulped it down in one go. 65 of 65 HP. Blood bank has been filled. 2 points have been added into agility. 1 free stat point has been added. You are no longer affected by sunlight. All stats have returned to normal. After consuming the blood in the bowl, Quinn felt like a whole new person. I can't hold on any longer, I'm too tired, Syl whined. The struggle against the Dalki was too much for him. He wasn't fighting obsessed like Rayton, so he gave up control and left Vorden in charge once again. The Dalki could suddenly move one foot in front of the other again. The amount of force it felt being exerted on itself was like nothing compared to before. Quinn, seeing this happen, knew he was in trouble. He put the free stat point into agility without hesitation. It now brought his agility stat up to a total of 23. Then, using all the speed he could and activating his boot's wind walk ability, he rushed over to where the Dalki was. Moving at an incredible speed, Quinn managed to cover the distance from the building to where the others were in only a few seconds. As soon as he was in range, he cast another blood swipe. The attack ripped through the sand and was heading straight for his target. The Dalki pulled his head back at the last second, and the attack skimmed right past its nose. "But how is this possible? I'm certain you should be at the death's door by now," the Dalki said. The Dalki charged towards him. A swing made its way to his head. Quinn ducked down and threw out a punch, performing blood spray at the same time, taking advantage of the close range. 60 of 65 HP. The fight continued in this fashion, with Quinn avoiding each of the Dalki's attacks, and whenever it would get too close, he would use his blood abilities to push it away. 48 of 65 HP. Quinn had to be sure not to get a hit from the Dalki. Another claw was coming at him, and it looked like he was about to get hit. He had no choice but to perform the flash step and appear directly behind the Dalki. "Damn, I can only use the flash step one more time," Quinn thought. But the Dalki was getting equally frustrated. "You little Kenan, I will squash you!" It lifted both fists and smashed them into the ground. It didn't seem like an attack made to hurt anyone. The rocks just lifted into the air and quickly fell back to the floor. It was just a way for it to let out a little bit of frustration. Quinn had taken a few steps back away from the Dalki and quickly opened up his status screen. MC points 40 of 100. This was what Quinn was waiting for. He was waiting for his MC points to return so he could use the shadow ability again. The Dalki was surprised to see that Quinn was the one coming towards it. "So you finally decided to attack, I see," it shouted. Quinn flung his hand out with his fingers held together, casting a single red line of aura. Then, before it could move away from him, the shadow underneath his feet started to move. The shadow reached out and grabbed the blood aura, holding it in place, and now the other end of the shadow was attached to Quinn's hand. The two opponents were still quite a distance away from each other, but Quinn still swung out the shadow side. Seeing this, the Dalki wasn't afraid. It was slightly confused, actually, as the scythe would be able to reach him. Suddenly, as the scythe was swung outwards, it seemed like it was starting to extend. With Quinn's new attack, combining his shadow control with the blood swipe, hit the Dalki's body. 47 of 65 HP, 35 of 100 MC. The Dalki's blood continued to drip from its side and fall into the sand, but now the spike on its back was pulsating faster and glowing brighter. Seeing the Dalki injured and bleeding made Quinn feel excited. He charged forward once again. "Come on, attack me again," the Dalki shouted. And Quinn did just that. The attack was a success, and it caused the Dalki to fall onto the ground. Its forearms were dripping with green blood, but it ignored its wounds. It just stood up once again and charged forward. At this point, even Quinn was starting to worry. He went to attack once again with his shadow scythe. Only this time the Dalki managed to jump and avoid the blow. "Did it just get faster?" Quinn said. "You seem to have forgotten," the Dalki said. "I told you already, the more we are hurt, the stronger we become." "I can't win," Quinn said. "Even with my full power, it's still too strong." "Snap out of it, Quinn," the system shouted in his head. "You only became a vampire a couple of weeks ago, and you think you can already take out an enemy like this? You will grow in due time, but the important thing right now is to survive." "I can do this! I have to do this!" Quinn shouted. Running forward and not changing his direction, he went straight ahead. Then, just as the Dalki was prepared to attack, flash step! He used his skill, allowing him to avoid the strike and go right past the Dalki. "What is he doing?" Layla thought. "Should we run? Is that why he's coming towards us?" "I need blood!" Quinn yelled. "I can't fight the Dalki like this. I need more blood!" Layla didn't ask any questions and immediately started to make another cut on the palm of her hand, and Erin had already formed another ice bowl. But when they all looked up, their faces had dropped entirely, for the Dalki was already right behind Quinn. Not only had its strength gotten higher, but so had its speed. Everything about the Dalki had improved. It was too late for Quinn to notice, and the Dalki was already mid-attack. The fist flew forward and penetrated right through flesh and bone, going straight through his body and out to the other side. Bright red blood could be seen dripping onto the ground with a fist through his body, but it wasn't Quinn's body that was penetrated. The person who had been hit was Peter. "Quinn," Peter said weakly, coughing out blood that filled his mouth. "Please, forgive me." His body fell to the ground and hit the soft sand. His blood continued to soak the sand, turning it red. At the moment Quinn needed help the most, the only one brave enough to step up and come to Quinn's side was Peter. However, it came at a terrible price. As Quinn saw Peter's body hit the ground, a certain reality hit him. He had seen people die before, but this was the first time that someone he knew personally had died. "Peter!" he shouted. "When did he get over there?" Layla asked after hearing Quinn shout. "He must have started moving towards Quinn as soon as he saw the Dalki," Vorden said. The Dalki looked at Peter on the floor. "That's quite noble of you. It's a shame, though, since you will all be dying with him." "I'll kill you!" Quinn shouted, "even if it means killing myself." Quinn rapidly fired out multiple blood sprays. "Hey, it seems to be working!" Layla shouted out. "I'll kill you!" Quinn shouted, "and once I'm done with you, I'll suck out your blood until you're nothing but a walking skeleton." He continued to shout out words of abuse, but he wasn't sure what he was saying. Fortunately, a nice surprise came to him amidst his combat. Blood spray has leveled up. Blood spray is now level 2. As it hit the Dalki this time, its wound seemed to be opening up, as more green blood was leaking out of it than before. Now that the two of them were a distance away, the group ran up to Peter to check on him. Surprisingly, even though he had such a big wound, he was still breathing. Layla cried out, "He'll bleed to death like this. It might be best if we kill him here," Vorden said all of a sudden. The two girls looked at Vorden with expressions of shock. "Look at him, he's in pain. He's been bleeding for the last 2 minutes, and at most he only has another 3 before he's completely gone. It'll be more peaceful to get rid of him now." But the group didn't have time to decide, for they were distracted by something else. When they looked over, they saw Quinn kneeling on one knee, while the Dalki was still standing, but green blood was oozing from the multiple wounds on his body. Quinn hadn't paid much attention to it, but he had unfortunately ran out of stamina. With the increase of firepower in the blood spray, it also took up more energy to use it. He looked at the Dalki that was still standing, unbelieving that it was still alive after it had received so much damage. The Dalki soon started walking over, while Quinn looked at it directly in the eyes. Daze. Daze skill ineffective. And just like that, the last thing he could do had been tossed out the window. "Damn it! If Peter can go forward, then at least I can as well," Vorden shouted all of a sudden, as he charged in with what little power he had left. But all of a sudden, a large metallic object went flying right by Vorden's head, landing directly between Quinn and the Dalki. "You kids get back! Get out of here now! That's an order!" It was a mech. The mechs had humongous strength, and were equivalent to that of the Dalki they were currently facing. "Come, Quinn!" Vorden yelled, putting Peter on top of his shoulder. "Let's get out of here!" And with that, the two of them went over to where the others were by Peter's side. Right now, his face was much paler than before, and not to mention, his eyelids were drooping as well. Quinn knelt by his side and looked him in the eyes. "I'm sorry, Peter. You saved me." "If you wish to save him, you must act quickly," the system said. "I can save him? But these wounds are impossible to heal with no healer around." "That is indeed the case, but if he was no longer human, and a supply of blood from each of you, he would be able to overcome this fatal wound. Would you like to activate the blood ritual?" The system had given him an option at the most crucial time, whether to make Peter into a blooded one or not. Surely becoming a vampire was better than dying, right? "I'll do it," Quinn said. "Quinn, what's up with your eyes?" Layla asked. Quinn didn't know it himself, but as soon as he had accepted to activate the skill of his blood ritual, his eyes started to glow. Right after, he started to follow the instructions one by one. Please proceed by inserting the host's blood into the mouth of the target. Then, using one of the tips of Layla's arrow, he inflicted a cut on his hand, creating a brand new wound. He held his hand just above Peter's mouth, who was now barely breathing, and allowed for the blood to drip in. Peter's eyes then opened wide, and now he had red rings around his eyes. "Quinn, this isn't enough. The transformation has only just begun, but he now needs the blood of the others to live," the system shouted. "Guys, please, I need you all to do the same," Quinn asked. Just then, Peter's body started shaking uncontrollably. Quinn quickly grabbed both of his hands. "Someone hold his mouth open!" Quinn shouted. Vorden quickly moved to the top of Peter's head and held his mouth open wide. The others did as instructed, and each one squeezed out the blood from the previous wound they had made before, reopening them. Finally, a result. The wound around Peter's stomach started to heal as his cells slowly patched them together. It was at a speed unseen unless one was using a healing ability. "What magic is this?" Erin said out loud. Peter started to struggle less and less until he eventually calmed down, and his eyes were finally closed. "Is he still alive?" Layla asked. At that moment, Quinn received another message. The ritual was a success. The human has successfully been blooded 1/2. A vampire ghoul has been created. A new family has been created. What would you like to name your family? Now that you have turned someone, he falls under your ranks. He has your blood, so he is part of your family. Every vampire that turns someone has the responsibility to look after their family, the system explained. Right now, Quinn could only think of one thing. Although he had gotten stronger thanks to the ability, he now relied on one thing: blood. Without it, he didn't know how he would survive. Family name the Cursed. This was how Quinn felt at this moment in time. Just then, a loud crash was heard. As the group turned their head, they could see a Dalki on top of one of the mechs, ripping off one of its arms. "Well, well, looks like we lucked out and it's only a single spike." A voice was heard from behind the group of students, and when they turned to look, they could see Leo standing there. But right now, he had a light set of black and red beast gear on, and his chest had the design of a Japanese demon, an Oni with horns. "There will be no need to call the others, or use my soul weapon for something like this." At the second military base inside one of the schools, another meeting was taking place. "There's been a report of a Dalki ship crash landing on the planet Kaladi," Nathan reported. The tower made communications with the Dalki, and of course, they said it was a member who had gone rogue. Before Nathan could even finish his sentence, Leo stood up from his seat and bowed down in front of Nathan. "Please allow me to go. Those students are too young to experience something like this, especially on their first outing. They must be protected." As long as the Dalki had no more than 3 spikes, then Nathan was confident in him. "Faye, Haley, I want 2 of you on standby just outside the portal for their return. If any backup is needed, then you go straight through. Haley, heal anyone who needs immediate medical attention." "It seems like Dell's class is having it tough this year," Haley said. "I couldn't agree more. It's almost as if bad luck has been following them around wherever they go," Faye replied. Leo was eventually ready, unhesitatingly entering the portal soon after. The shelter had responded to the emergency response and had closed all shelter gates. 2 mechs had been sent out to look for the Dalki, with both of them arriving at the crash sites. But once the mechs had discovered their location, they were able to tell Leo exactly where they were. "Men, fall back!" Leo shouted. The 2 guys in the mechs did as ordered. "Another one," the Dalki said as he saw Leo walking towards him with his hand on his sheath. The Dalki looked like he was heavily injured, but that didn't fool Leo. Using his ability, he could see the strong aura emanating from him. "Why did you fight us?" Leo asked. In response to his question, the Dalki ignored him and went in for a strike. Leo responded to his actions by pivoting forward and using a quick draw, pulling out the katana from its sheath and putting it back in an instant. The Dalki felt nothing, as his arm had been cleanly sliced off. There was no resistance like everything else before had. It was as if the sword was able to ignore all attributes.
"You!"
The Dalki pointed with his other hand.
"I know who you are. The others had warned me about you."
Unfortunately for him, before he could finish talking, its head had also been cleanly cut off. "Was this the only one?" Leo asked. For a moment, the students had forgotten to speak as they were too amazed at what they had just seen. Yes, that's the only one we saw," Layla replied. The 2 mechs soon ran forward and went down on their knees. "Thank you for protecting us, Sergeant Leo." "Don't thank me," Leo replied. "Thankfully, the Dalki was already on its last legs. You 2 must have done a good job in injuring the Dalki before I got here." The 2 soldiers looked at each other in response. They hadn't even managed to land a hit, even once. Nearly all of the wounds that were on the Dalki were on it before they had even gotten there. It couldn't have been the students, could it? They simultaneously thought. In contrast, Quinn's attention was focused on something else. His eyes were fixated on the Dalki's hand that was not too far away from them. He started walking over, and Vorden soon noticed what he was looking at as well. "Inspect."
"Dalki, a half-human, half-beast race."
"Half human, half beast?" Quinn looked at it with a confused expression. Aren't the Dalki aliens? Inspect.
Dalki blood. Consuming the blood will have unknown effects on the host.
System, do you know what the Dalki blood will do? Quinn asked.
No.
The system replied bluntly. But I will tell you this. If it did harm to your body, the system would warn you. Should I? Quinn thought. The system said it wouldn't hurt me, right? Well, here it goes. As the blood touched his tongue, a mint sensation entered his body.
Level 1 Dalki blood has been consumed. A 10% increase in all stats. Will last 1 hour.
The tingling feeling Quinn felt through his body was hard to describe, and the buff that he got from obtaining it was amazing. Quinn looked at the arm again and thought if there was any way of him taking it back with him. Unfortunately, it seemed like non-living matter was unable to enter the dimensional space. But by that time, Leo and the other two were already done with checking out the dead Dalki body. These two will escort you back to the school. Make sure that all your injuries are dealt with. As the others walked off with the soldiers, Leo grabbed onto Quinn's wrist. It looks like you stayed true to your word, and you protected them, Leo said. I guess you are on our side after all. But as Leo looked past Quinn, he noticed Peter, and he looked slightly different and had a slight tint of purple to his aura, similar to Quinn. I'm still keeping my eye on you two, Leo said, but for now, go rest. Just then, as the group continued to carry Peter on their shoulders, it seemed like he was starting to wake up. As he opened his eyes, Vorden and Layla slowly allowed him to stand on his own 2 feet. What happened? He asked. I think you should talk to Quinn once we have the time and this is all over, Vorden replied. Anyway, how are you feeling? Layla asked. I'm feeling good, Peter replied. Better than usual, actually, although I am a bit hungry. Somewhere in an unknown place in a large room, there was a large rectangle table that stretched out far and wide. On the table, there were a total of 13 seats, and each one had a person sitting in them, all apart from one. It was a mixture of men and women, and they all looked all sorts of ages. But they all had one thing in common as they sat in their seats, and that was their red-colored eyes. Behind each of the seats was a single purple-colored flame, just behind them attached to the wall, and behind the empty seat, there was one that had been lit up as well. A single man sat at the head of the table and started the conversation. As you can see, the flame has been lit above the 10th chair. Does that mean he's back? But I thought he had died. No, I believe he managed to somehow find someone before he left this world, and they have officially bloodied their first, creating a new family. But why now? It's been 100 years. I don't know, but what I do know is we must find this new family and bring them in as soon as possible. Make sure they uphold our laws, and if not, we shall get rid of them all. Inside a pitch-black training hall, a certain boy was creeping his way forward towards a door, and just hovering above him was something that looked like a miniature bull, a little larger than a human's fist, although this one also had tiny wings and 2 large fangs on the front of his face. Did you spot anyone, Ham? The kid asked. His name was Fex, and today he had come to the hall inside his family's castle for one reason, to go to the human world. Just then, out of his backpack, Fex pulled a small silver ring that had 10 crystals embedded on the inside and all around. I have to thank you again, Bloody Volver, wherever you are. Because of you, I can finally leave this place. He then placed the ring on the ring finger of his right hand and was finally ready to go. Wait, I think I hear someone, Ham said. Well, let's hope I don't end up somewhere too bad. Fex then rushed over to one of the square machines on the floor and tapped on top of the machine. Access code accepted. From the hallway, one of the guards who was roaming could hear the mechanical sounds coming from the room. Is someone using the teleporters? I don't remember an outing planned for today, the man thought. He quickly ran into the room, and just then he could see Fex standing in front of the circular teleport device. Fex turned around and looked up at the man. He gave him a huge smile before saluting the man. He grabbed Ham and jumped back into the teleport circle. Ham, you need to transform. The humans will have a fit if they see you flying above me. A small puff of black smoke appeared around Ham. When the black smoke went away, it was replaced with what looked like a black dangling earring. It was round at the top, with a little symbol of a bull on it. When Fex opened his eyes, he found himself in a large dome-like building with digital signs going all across the walls, showing all sorts of advertisements. But the biggest one of them all was one that said, Welcome to Toklon City. Fex headed for the exit, as if he didn't worry about the world, but just as he reached the exit, he could see the doors to the outside where the sun was glaring. "Time to put this ring to the test," Fex said. He closed his eyes and took one step out into the open sun, and nothing happened. With a big smile on his face, he continued to walk forward and started to explore the city. After walking a while, Fex decided to stop by what looked like a food shop. "Perhaps I can get this thing called wine, the drink my grandpa was talking about, from this shop," Fex thought. As he went inside, he started to look around the shop in the drink section for an item labeled as wine. He grabbed a random bottle and rushed over to the counter, waiting for his turn. "ID, please," the counter clerk asked. "ID?" Fex was confused. Unknown to him, every citizen of Earth was required to carry around an ID. "How old are you, kid?" 16. "Can I not purchase this drink, then? I have the money," Fex said, with an innocent smile on his face. "No, of course you can." Then, as Fex had left the shop, the clerk immediately opened up his screen and dialed the number 111. "Hello, I'd like to report someone on Bader Street. Yeah, it looks like a student who is committing draft evasion. Black hair, gelled back, with an earring. He didn't seem to have an ID on him either." Walking down the street with his backpack in his hand, Fex was smiling broadly. Of course, it had been many years since his grandpa had visited Earth, but the one thing he would never stop talking about was this drink called wine. This was why Fex put it at the top of his to-do list when he would finally visit Earth. "You're being followed, you know," Ham said. "Yeah, I can tell," Fex replied. "Did the family find us already?" Ham asked. "No, they don't smell like vampires. Most likely they are humans. But why are they following us?" Fex said. Although Fex didn't pay much attention during his lessons, there was one law that was hammered into his head. Never, under any circumstance, reveal yourself to humans. If they found out what you are, you had only two options: bring them back with you to turn them into a blooded, or kill them. Fex decided to turn around a corner into a dark alleyway to confront the humans following him. "I know you're following me," Fex said. The two men stepped towards Fex. "Fire when you're ready," the first man said. "Looks like I might have to fight my way out of this one," Fex thought. He took a step forward, and a small, sharp pain was felt in the side of his neck. "What the—" As he looked to the side, he noticed that something that looked like a dart had been shot into his neck. Inside the dart, a green liquid could be seen. "Why am I suddenly feeling so sleepy?" His eyes started to close, and he collapsed onto the floor. Back at the castle, a certain man was sitting in a large, throne-like chair. This man was Fex's father, Lee Sanguinus. "Is there any update?" he said. Kneeling in front of him were 5 of his subordinates. "Unfortunately, it seems like the humans have managed to get to him before we could, sir," one of the subordinates said. Lee said, "The silly boy never paid any attention to his classes, yet he always listened to my father's crazy stories. Do we know where they have taken him?" "Our resources say that he was taken to one of the military bases to be admitted into military school," the same subordinate replied. "Silver," Lee said. "Yes, sir," a female subordinate replied as she stood up. Just like her name suggested, she had bright, long silver hair that was tied in a ponytail that nearly went down to her knees. "As you are the faithful blood knight of the Sanguinus family, I task with retrieving and returning Fex to us." Silver then bowed down once again. "I shall complete my task without fail." The meeting had ended, and each of them had left the room, leaving Lee with his thoughts. Perhaps this will be a good learning experience for him. Remembering his own time on Earth, a rage inside his body started to consume him, and the glass he held in his hand shattered to pieces. It will teach him just how cruel those damn humans are to the other worlds.
All of the students from the expedition had been gathered and were taken to the first-year assembly hall. All they could do was talk to one another and speculate why the expedition had been canceled. A student spotted black smoke in the distance in the desert. It seemed like it was coming from a ship. "That's right, I heard it might have been a Dalki." All Faye could do was clench her fist. The report had stated that they had found both Hugo's and Ben's bodies out in the desert. They were able to confirm they had died from the Dalki. However, the other 3 in their group were never found. "Attention!" Faye shouted. The students immediately got in line and saluted her. Then a holographic screen appeared behind them. It was a scoreboard with all the team scores. "First things first, as you may know, the expedition has been cancelled," Faye explained.
What that means for all of you is that the points you had obtained in the first 2 days before the expedition ended will be your final score for this exam." "What?" Erin blurted it out, and she wasn't the only one. "Enough! There are more important things than the test," Faye shouted, calming down the chatter amongst students. "Right now there's a high possibility that some of your fellow students have died on this test, and worst of all, it was to the threat we have all been training against, the Dalki. The Dalki has been swiftly dealt with, and it seems like this was not a planned attack, but a stray ship. But this is a reminder to you all why we need to train so hard every single day, and I hope you will remember that. You are dismissed," Faye said, ending her speech, but Erin wasn't bothered about any of that. "You!" she shouted and pointed at Quinn. "Why did you hide your strength? If you had fought with us that day instead of hiding under that umbrella, we would have gotten a better score. And what's with your strange power? How did you heal Peter? He should have died. No more excuses. I want answers for everything that happened," she screamed. "If you were that strong, then why didn't you help?" Tears streamed down her face. "I think it's best if we all head back to our room," Layla said. "We can explain everything there, and I'm sure Peter has a lot of questions of his own." While the first-year students were being informed of what happened, the three generals were having a meeting of their own. Nathan, the head of the first years, Duke, the head of the second years, and the last general, Mike, who was head of communications. "I wonder how many of your students would have died on that expedition if it wasn't for that Sergeant Leo of yours," Duke said. "I doubt you even have the strength to take on a Dalki yourself." "Are you upset because you can't bribe him to come over to your side with one of those Earth ability books of yours?" Nathan replied. "It's a pity that your tactics of recruiting only work on those weak-minded fools." But then the one person who could calm them down entered the room. The door swung wide open, and a middle-aged man wearing a business suit came walking in. "We welcome the head general," they all said at once. The head general proceeded to sit down in his seat as he brought up an initial report for all three of them to see. "We all know these odd attacks have been happening on our beast planets for a while. Every single time an attack takes place, they seem to be getting closer and closer to our starting planet." "Do you think they're aiming for the city station?" Mike asked. "For now, I believe these solo Dalki are just sent as scouts. They have no clue how strong we have become in this time frame, and they have no clue what security measures we have. But I fear this may mean that the war will be starting again soon. In a couple of weeks, we have a visit from Mr. True Dream, which means I will need you to prepare some students for him." The three generals gave awkward glances at each other as they heard this piece of news. "Duke, I expect you to do well like you always have," the head general said. It was already night, but there was still some time left for the group to talk before their curfew would start. Therefore, they all decided to head to the boys' room to discuss what on earth had happened during the fight with the Dalki. The three boys promptly sat on Vorden's bed, while the two girls sat on Quinn's. "I suppose I should be the one who starts explaining first," Quinn said while standing up. He moved towards the center of the two groups. "Recently, as you may all know, Vorden and I have entered the Red Portal planet. While we were there, I discovered a strange ability book, one that allowed me to control shadows. It was a strange book because it disappeared the moment I learned the ability." Quinn then tapped the surface of his wristwatch 3 times. The number suddenly changed from a 1 to a 6. When he tapped it another 3 times, it changed back to 1 again. "I knew it," Erin said. "But why did you have to hide it from us?" At that point, Quinn took a deep breath. "That's because I have an even bigger secret that I was hiding. I'm a vampire," Quinn said, looking at Erin and Peter with a nervous look on his face. "So, this is what you guys came up with to try to give an excuse why Quinn didn't use his powers?" she said. "Well, I'm not buying it. I don't believe that a human that needs blood to survive exists. If there were such creatures as vampires, why haven't they revealed themselves to the world already?" Erin then went towards the door, pulling it open before saying her final words. "You guys disappoint me. I was starting to think that we were a team, not a bunch of liars." With that, she closed the door behind her and stormed off. "Do you think she'll tell anyone?" Quinn asked. "Are you kidding? With a reaction like that?" Vorden replied. "She didn't even believe it herself." "Well, how did we expect her to react?" "Oh, it's okay. You can have my blood anytime. She's not Layla, for goodness sake." "I'll go up and check on her, just to make sure she doesn't tell anyone. I'll give you an update about it tomorrow, Quinn." Although Erin didn't seem to believe it, Peter, for some reason, did. He didn't know how to explain it, but ever since he had left, his body felt different.
There was some sort of connection that he felt between Quinn and him. The last thing that convinced him was the fact that he wasn't dead. "Quinn, does it mean that I'm a vampire now too?" Peter asked. Just what was a vampire ghoul? Quinn thought. "I'm afraid it isn't good news," the system said. "Out of all the possibilities he could have turned into, this was the outcome I was hoping for the least." The system's words didn't give Quinn great hope, and what he was about to hear lessened his optimism even further.
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.